start with arrogance and what a lot of people perceive arrogance and what arrogance is, in my view. Arrogance really is, it's behaviours that we do. I think it's a way of covering up various things. And usually it's about covering up when we don't feel great about ourselves, when we don't feel comfortable, we may be feeling insecure or having our buttons pushed or having our confidence knocked. We might talk about it in that way. But basically we're not necessarily feeling great. So because we're not feeling great, we tend to find ways of dealing with that and covering it up. And sometimes those behaviours that we can do can seem like we are being arrogant. And that arrogance, when I've asked hundreds of people about this now, and the same things come up over and over again. It's when we talk too much, or when we interrupt other people, or we do that, yeah, I know, yeah, I know, yeah, I've got the answer to that, yeah. That kind of dismissive way of I was going to say connecting with other people, but it's a disconnect with other people. The kind of person who takes up a lot of space, and that could be physically, that could be with themselves, that could be with their stuff. It could be that they do that vocally, they could do that energetically. They don't have to physically take up all of that space. They're the kind of people who have an opinion, want their opinion to be heard, and they will do everything to make sure their opinion is heard, no matter who else is in the room. They can be really talkative, but equally they can be quite aloof and dismissive of other people. Thank you for the likes, people. They can be quite dismissive of people too. And don't be disillusioned that thinking that arrogant behaviours is just about that loudness, that brash, the person who talks over everyone, the person who's always got to be heard and have their opinion heard. Their behaviours can be quite aloof. They might ignore people as well. So there are a number of behaviours that are associated around arrogance. But I think it's really important to recognise that these are behaviours. The person is doing behaviours. They are not arrogant. They are doing arrogant behaviours. And I think why I emphasise that and why I believe that's so important is because I can certainly raise my hand and say that there are times when I've interrupted people, spoken over people, done the yeah, I know, yeah, I know, it's where I can do the face so well, yeah, I know. And we may not even do that outwardly. We may be doing it internally, and then we kind of interrupt them and kind of go, well, I've got what you're saying now, this is what you mean, so just get on with it. And I know that from talking to clients, talking to delegates in workshops, I know that these are behaviours that so many of us do. So don't beat yourself up about it, but have the awareness and the trust and the understanding for yourself that these behaviours are triggered unconsciously for us by something that's going on in the background, and we may not be aware of what that is. So, for example, I know for me, I can only speak from my own perspective on this, but I know for me that whenever I felt uncomfortable, I would make myself vocally a lot louder. I would also kind of talk over other people, because I thought if I can keep talking, then no one's going to ask me any questions that I'm not going to know the answer to. So therefore I just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking and try to be the funny one, and because I wanted to be liked. And there was a lot of efforting, there was a lot of, it wasn't a relaxed state to be in, and a lot of arrogant behaviours, when you start to notice them, there's a lot of tension being held, and it could be really subtle, but it can show up in your jaw, could show up in your neck or your shoulders, can show up in your fists. It can show up in all sorts of ways, this tension around the behaviour that is happening, and that's because there is a incongruence between the behaviour on the outside, yeah, everything's fine, I've got it, I know everything, versus what's going on the inside, which is oh, holy crap, don't anybody find out. And you've got those two things that they're pulling in the opposite direction, because they're not in alignment, they're not connected with each other. So the first thing to be aware of when people get worried about becoming arrogant, when they want to develop their own confidence, is they're worried about being arrogant. So be mindful, be aware of doing those behaviours. Are you talking for the sake of talking? Are you interrupting people? Are you doing that? I'm just waiting for her to shut up so that I can put in my two penneth. Are you overlapping? Are you being opinionated to the point of you really want to make sure that you get heard and are dismissing other people? Are you either outwardly or inwardly doing the, I know, I've got it. Those kinds of things. Now, the key with this, and the key, I believe, with pretty much all of your confidence development, growth, building, boosting, whatever the right word is for you, is about kindness. When you notice that you're doing these behaviours, these arrogant behaviours, just notice and then do something different.